The smell of fresh coffee couldn't mask the tension in Grandma Rose's kitchen. I sat at the worn oak table where I'd spent countless childhood mornings, now surrounded by relatives who couldn't even wait until after the funeral to start fighting over her estate. "Let's get this over with," Aunt Patricia announced, pulling out a thick manila envelope. Her designer blazer looked out of place against the cheerful yellow wallpaper Grandma had picked up decades ago. "The sooner we settle this, the sooner we can sell everything and move on. I'm Elena Martinez, and until last week, I was just a geological survey technician living in a small apartment in the city, trying to make ends meet. Now I was sitting in my late grandmother's kitchen, about to discover that she had left me the one thing my aunts and cousins had been circling like vultures for years: her 200-acre farm on the outskirts of town." The lawyer, Mr. Thompson, cleared his throat. Mrs. Rose Martinez was very specific in her will. He adjusted his glasses, looking uncomfortable as the tension in the room thickened. "The farm, including all land and structures, is to go to her granddaughter, Elena Martinez." The explosion was immediate. "What?" Aunt Patricia's voice could have shattered windows. "That's impossible. Mother must have been out of her mind." My cousin Rebecca, Patricia's daughter, leaned forward, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against the table. "Elena doesn't know the first thing about running a farm. She's a glorified dirt collector." I remained silent, thinking about the quiet conversations I'd had with Grandma Rose over the years. How she listened intently when I talked about my work, her eyes twinkling with an understanding I hadn't fully appreciated until now. "The will is quite clear," Mr. Thompson continued, his voice firm. "Additionally, Mrs. Martinez left a letter explaining her decision." He pulled out an envelope with my name written in Grandma's elegant script. Aunt Patricia snatched it before I could reach for it. "This is ridiculous. That farm is worth millions in development potential. Elena will just sell it to the first developer who comes along. Mother wanted to keep it in the family." "I am family," I said quietly, speaking for the first time. "And I have no intention of selling." "Oh, please." My other aunt, Maria, joined in. "You can barely afford your rent. How are you going to maintain a 200-acre farm? The property taxes alone will bankrupt you." They didn't know about my late-night conversations with Grandma, about how she quizzed me about soil compositions and water tables, about the strange questions she asked about mineral deposits in the area. At the time, I thought she was just being supportive of my career. Now I wondered if there had been more to it. "The farm stays with Elena," Mr. Thompson insisted. Mrs. Martinez was of sound mind when she made this decision 6 months ago. Aunt Patricia stood up, throwing the letter onto the table. "Fine, keep your worthless dirt farm. But don't come crying to us when you can't afford to maintain it. We all know it's been losing money for years." I picked up the letter, tucking it into my jacket pocket without opening it. There would be time for that later when I was alone. "There's one more thing," Mr. Thompson added, pulling out another document. "Mrs. Martinez left specific instructions that no part of the farm can be sold or developed for at least 1 year after her death." This brought another round of protests from my aunts, but I barely heard them. My mind was racing, pieces falling into place. The questions about mineral rights, the discussions about soil composition, the way Grandma had insisted I explain exactly what my job entailed. "You have no idea what you're doing," Rebecca sneered as they prepared to leave. "That farm's been nothing but a money pit for years. Grandma was crazy to leave it to you." I watched them file out, their expensive cars kicking up dust as they sped away from the farmhouse. Only then did I pull out Grandma's letter, my hands trembling slightly as I broke the seal. "My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, then I'm no longer here, and you've just inherited what your aunts probably called a worthless piece of land. They never understood this farm the way you and I do. They see only what's on the surface, the struggling crops, the old buildings, the seemingly worthless acres of untilled fields. But you, my dear, have always looked deeper. Your work has taught you to see what lies beneath the surface, to understand the stories that soil and stone can tell. I've watched you grow into a brilliant young woman with the perfect skills to uncover this farm's true value. There's a reason I made them wait a year before any sale could happen. You'll need that time. Start with the north field near the old oak tree. That's where your grandfather and I first." The letter ended abruptly, the last page missing. I looked in the envelope, but there was nothing else. Just another mystery to add to the puzzle Grandma had left me. I spent the rest of the day walking the farm, seeing it with new eyes. The north field, overgrown and untilled for years, drew my attention. What had Grandma been trying to tell me? What had she and Grandpa found there? That evening, I made some calls to old colleagues at the Geological Survey office. Hey, Mark, remember that favor you owe me? I need a full survey done. Soil composition, mineral deposits, everything. How soon can you get a team out here? Monday, he replied. But Elena, you know a full survey could take weeks. That's fine, I said, watching the sunset paint the fields in shades of gold. I have a feeling what we find will be worth the wait. I slept in Grandma's room that night, surrounded by the familiar scent of lavender and decades of memories. On her bedside table, I found a small notebook, its pages filled with her neat handwriting. Dates, numbers, and cryptic notes stretched back years. One entry caught my eye. North field test. Positive. R says to wait. Not time yet. As I drifted off to sleep, I could almost hear Grandma's voice. Sometimes, Elena, the most valuable things are the ones others are too blind to see. Monday's survey would change everything, but for now, I had a mystery to solve and a farm to protect. Grandma had trusted me with more than just land. She trusted me with her legacy. And I was beginning to suspect that legacy was far more valuable than anyone had imagined. Tomorrow I would start digging into the farm's records, trying to piece together what Grandma and Grandpa had discovered in that north field. But tonight, I let myself mourn the remarkable woman who had seen something in me that even I hadn't fully recognized. The aunts and cousins thought they'd get the last laugh. But Grandma Rose had taught me that patience and knowledge were more valuable than quick profits. Monday would prove just how right she'd been. Monday dawned clear and crisp, the kind of autumn morning that Grandma Rose used to say was perfect for new beginnings. I watched from the farmhouse porch as Mark's geological survey team unloaded their equipment, their trucks breaking the morning silence. You sure about this full spectrum analysis? Mark asked, joining me with a steaming cup of coffee. It's not cheap, Elena. I handed him Grandma's notebook. Look at these entries. She was documenting something, Mark. Something in the north field. He flipped through the pages, his expression changing from skepticism to interest. These readings. Your grandmother took soil samples. She and my grandfather were more thorough than anyone knew. I sipped my coffee, remembering the conversations that now made so much sense. They were waiting for something. I need to know what. The survey team worked methodically, starting with the north field as I'd requested. Ground-penetrating radar, soil samples, core drilling. They left no stone unturned. I split my time between watching their progress and going through decades of farm records I found in Grandma's study. On Wednesday, my phone rang. It was Aunt Patricia. The neighbors saw survey test. She said without feeling. What are you up to, Elena? Just being thorough, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. My Grandma taught me. Don't waste your money, she scoffed. That land's been picked over for generations. There's nothing there but dirt and debt. After she hung up, I returned to the papers spread across Grandma's desk. Property records, geological surveys from the 1950s, correspondence with mining companies, all carefully preserved. One letter from 1962 caught my eye. It was from a mining company to my grandfather, expressing interest in the property but noting that extraction technology wasn't advanced enough yet for their needs. My phone buzzed again. A text from Rebecca. Heard you're throwing away money on surveys. Need help writing a listing agreement when you come to your senses. I ignored it, focusing instead on a series of maps I found hidden in an old roll-top desk. They showed the farm's boundaries, but with strange annotations in my grandfather's handwriting. Numbers and symbols that looked like geological markers dotted the north field. Friday morning, Mark burst into the farmhouse, his face flushed with excitement. Elena, you need to see this. He spread out a series of readouts on the kitchen table. The preliminary results from the north field. It's lithium. A massive deposit and not very deep. The kind of high-grade lithium that battery manufacturers dream about. My hands trembled as I looked at the data. How much? Conservative estimate? Enough to make this the largest lithium deposit discovered in the region. Your grandparents must have known. These old soil samples in their records, they were testing for it. But lithium mining technology back then wasn't cost-effective. I finished remembering the old letter. They were playing the long game, waiting for technology to catch up. That's when we heard cars pulling up outside. Aunt Patricia, Aunt Maria, and Rebecca stormed in without knocking. "What's going on?" Patricia demanded. "The whole town's talking about your survey team. What are you planning?" I met her gaze steadily. "Would you like to see the preliminary results?" "Elena," Mark cautioned, but I waved him off. No, they should see this. After all, they were so concerned about the farm's value. I laid out the reports, watching their expressions change as Mark explained what we found. The color drained from Patricia's face as he detailed the potential value of the lithium deposits. This can't be right," Maria stammered. "Oh, it's right," I said, pulling out Grandma's notebook. "Grandma and Grandpa discovered this years ago. They just needed someone who could understand the technical side to prove it. Someone with geological training. That's why she left it to you," Rebecca whispered, looking sick. "She knew you'd understand the survey data." "We're still family," Patricia said, her voice suddenly sweet. "We should discuss this as a family, perhaps some kind of arrangement." "Like the arrangement you offered Monday?" I interrupted. "What was it you called this? A worthless dirt farm?" "We didn't know." "No, you didn't. You didn't bother to know. You never listened when Grandma talked about the land. You never cared about anything except what you could sell it for. The property belongs to all of us." Patricia's voice rose. "We'll contest the will." "Go ahead," I said calmly. "Mr. Thompson has all the documentation showing Grandma was of sound mind. Plus, I have years of their research proving they knew exactly what they were doing. But more importantly, I pulled out the final page of Grandma's letter, the one I found hidden in her notebook. I have this." I read it aloud. "My dearest Elena, if you're reading this last page, you've probably already discovered what your grandfather and I found all those years ago. We knew the land held treasure, but we needed someone with both the knowledge to prove it and the heart to use it wisely. Your aunts would have sold this farm to the first developer who came along. You understand that true value isn't just in quick profits. It's in sustainable development and creating something that lasts. The lithium beneath our fields can power a cleaner future, but only if handled responsibly. That's why we chose you. You have the education to understand the science, the wisdom to develop it sustainably, and the heart to honor the land that has been in our family for generations. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't deserve this. You were always the one who saw beneath the surface, just like your grandfather and me. All my love, Grandma Rose." Silence filled the kitchen. Finally, Aunt Maria spoke, her voice small. "What are you going to do?" I looked out the window at the fields that had supported our family for generations. "I'm going to do exactly what Grandma and Grandpa planned. I've already spoken with several ethical mining companies about sustainable extraction methods. The farm's agricultural operations will continue on the unaffected areas. And yes, the profits will be substantial." "And us?" Rebecca asked. "You'll get exactly what Grandma wanted you to have, as specified in her will. Nothing more, nothing less." They left quietly, their designer heels clicking on the porch steps. Mark waited until their cars disappeared down the driveway. "Your grandmother was quite a woman," he said. "Yes, she was." I smiled, touching the letter. "She taught me that the most valuable things often lie beneath the surface, whether it's minerals in the ground or truth in people's hearts." Over the next year, I developed the farm exactly as Grandma and Grandpa had envisioned. The lithium mining operation became a model of sustainable practices, providing jobs for the community while preserving most of the agricultural land. The farmhouse became my home, its yellow wallpaper and familiar scents a constant reminder of the grandmother who had seen so much more than others knew. My aunts and cousins eventually tried to contest the will, but the evidence of Grandma's careful planning was too strong. They moved away, pursuing other ventures, occasionally sending messages through lawyers about family obligations and shared inheritance. I kept Grandma's letter framed on my office wall, a reminder that sometimes the greatest inheritance isn't what people can see. It's the faith someone has in you to do the right thing. 5 years later, I stood in the north field, watching the sunset just as Grandma used to do. The sustainable mining operation hummed quietly in the distance, while wheat swayed in the evening breeze on the surrounding fields. A perfect balance of progress and preservation, exactly as she'd envisioned. My phone buzzed. Another message from a lawyer representing my aunts, probably with another proposal for sharing the wealth. I smiled, thinking of Grandma's words. "Sometimes, Elena, the most valuable things are the ones others are too blind to see." She'd been right, of course. The real treasure hadn't been the lithium beneath the soil. It had been the lesson she taught me, that true worth lies not in what you own, but in understanding the deeper value of things, and in having the patience and wisdom to realize that potential. As I walked back to the farmhouse, I passed the old oak tree where it had all started, where Grandma and Grandpa had first discovered their secret. I'd planted a new sapling beside it last spring, a reminder that the best legacies grow slowly, reaching deep into the earth before stretching toward the sky. Some people called it the miracle farm now, the land that turned out to be worth millions. But I knew better. The real miracle wasn't what lay beneath the soil. It was having a grandmother wise enough to see beneath the surface of people too, and patient enough to wait for the right moment to reveal what she'd always known was there. The end of day painted the fields in shades of gold, just like that first evening after the will reading. But now I understood what Grandma had meant when she used to say, "The land tells its secrets to those who know how to listen." She taught me to listen, not just to the land, but to my own heart. And that, more than any mineral wealth or family fortune, was her true legacy.